This is a good guy and fair and judicious, and that's it. Whereas if a court refuses to do this, court-police firm refuses to do this, it'll have to fight every other court. And it won't have any legitimacy. And legitimacy is a very important thing in this scenario here. It'll have to fight every court. Whereas the legitimate courts will only have to fight bandit courts. Bandit courts will have to fight other bandit courts and all legitimate courts. And we know that fighting is expensive. And the odds are, the likelihood is that the bandit courts will go out of business, and they won't even start in the first place because they won't have the legitimacy. Nobody will go to them. It'll be just silly. Okay, so that's one way that private enterprise would work. Let me ask you a question. Where would you feel more comfortable meeting me tonight at 2 in the morning? In Audubon Park or in Disney World? Well, that's a no-brainer because in Disney World it's much safer because of private enterprise. Because if a murder or a rape or something, theft occurs in Disney World, they're going to lose a lot of money. Whereas in Audubon Park, it's a publicly owned park. So does Mayor Nagin lose money if somebody gets ripped off in Audubon Park or hurt or molested or whatever? No. This is the ordinary reason why we have good wristwatches and good ties, or at least no crisis with pizza, because if there were a crisis, if this pizza wasn't good, we wouldn't order it again. If this watch didn't work, I wouldn't buy this watch and other people wouldn't. So what you have, the reason that free enterprise is better than government is because if somebody fails, and to be human is to fail, they go broke. Whereas in government, they don't. Look what happened in New Orleans with FEMA and the Army Corps of Engineers. See, I don't mind that much that between the two of them they killed 1,500 people. I don't like it, but I don't mind it that much. But what really bugs the hell out of me is the fact that they're still in business. Imagine a private FEMA or a private Army Corps of Engineers perpetrating the horrors that they did. They'd be out of business in a minute. So the market is better because it's moral, because it lives according to the non-aggression axiom. It doesn't force anyone to do anything except bad guys that it finds guilty of crimes. And it's more economic because of the bankruptcy for the inefficient. Okay, let me deal with a few objections to this modest proposal that I'm offering, that we get rid of governments because governments are a pox. Well, one argument or one objection is that individuals will fight and need government to rule over them. So we get some sort of equation. I'm nothing if not mathematical here. So what you have is government over the individual. And we need this. Well, if that's true, the counter-argument is, well, if this is true, then what we really need is a real government to watch over national governments. Namely, the same relationship goes in both cases. And yet it's the very rare person who would say we should have world government, and for good and sufficient reason. Because if you don't like one country, you can go to another country. But if one group has got the whole world, there's no place to go. We're not open for business yet on Mars or the moon. Another argument is, well, if you don't like it here, leave. If you don't like the U.S. government, leave. We're not like the Soviet Union or Cuba where they won't let you out, where they have rules against immigration. We'll let you leave. Leave. Well, the problem with this is that it's a circular argument. What it really assumes is that the U.S. government has the right to determine what you can do and the right to force you to pay taxes. But that's the very point in question. Look, suppose someone was here before the government started. The government always has to start at a specific time. Suppose someone was there. Take the following case. It's 1776, and there's some guy out in Ohio where he hasn't heard of what's going on the 13 colonies. And some revenuer, tax collector, comes out to him and says, well, we're starting this U.S. government. We're voluntary, we're libertarian, we're like a club. And the guy in Ohio says, oh, that's great. I'll be a good neighbor. I wish you the best of luck. And the tax collector says, you don't understand. You're a part of it. And the guy says, what? I'm part of it? I've been here for 50 years before you started? And now you're forcing me to be in it? And you call that voluntary? How is that voluntary? No, that's barbaric. And we've established that there are only two ways to relate to each other. the voluntary way and the coercive way, and government is here seen as coercive. If you don't have a right to secede, you're really not free. I go so far as to say that the big problem with slavery is you couldn't secede. Slavery otherwise wasn't so bad. You could get food, you could sing songs, you could pick cotton. And when they start whipping you, say, "Oh, whoa, I didn't realize you could whip me, I quit." And they said, "You don't understand, you can't quit." That's the problem with slavery. Otherwise, it's just voluntary sadomasochism. Right? If you can't quit, if you can quit, then you're in a voluntary consenting adult behavior. So quitting is very important. But they won't let you quit. We had this war in 1861. It wasn't the Civil War. It was a war of northern aggression, or a war to prevent southern secession. A civil war is when there are two contending parties, each of which wants to rule the whole country. Like the Spanish Civil War was a civil war. It was Franco against the commies, and they each wanted to rule all of Spain. But the South didn't want to rule all of the country. They just wanted to quit, to secede. Well, that's another dimension to look under anarchism. What anarchism just means is the right to secede, but you don't have to give up your house. You can just say, "Okay, I'm no longer part of the U.S. government. You don't have to protect me, and I'm not paying taxes." But they don't allow you to do that. Try that around April 15th and see what happens. Then they say, well, the government is really a club. And if you join the golf club, you have to pay dues. So if you're part of the U.S. club, you have to pay taxes. Schumpeter says, the theory which construes taxes on the analogy of club dues, or of the purchase of the services of a doctor, only proves how far removed this part of the social science is from scientific habits of mind. It's not a club. You're forced to join it, whether you like it or not, and they will not allow competition. You can't set up an alternative to the U.S. government. You can't just set up the Matt Cole agency. And Matt Cole now will protect people, and he'll charge you dues for his services, and you don't have to pay the government. They'll put him in jail. They don't allow competition. We have a word for that. It's called monopoly. We have antitrust laws supposedly to stop it. Well, the antitrust division ought to get rid of the U.S. government if they were compatible with what they're supposed to be doing. The U.S. government has killed 193 million people, according to official statistics. That is their own people. Not part of wars. Not part of highway deaths, which is 40,000 a year on government socialist highways. And then don't even account deaths due to their drug wars, due to the prohibition of drugs. It's 193 million people, mostly in gulags and in places in China where they killed people. The government is just an armed gang with good PR.
Over how many years?
The whole century, the whole
last century.
The whole 20th century. Why do economists reject this? Why are most economists not anarchists? Why don't they see the one true faith for what it is, namely the only just system of dealing with each other in a full free enterprise system? Why is it that even free enterprise economists, who should know better, still reject this? Well, I have two words for them. Market failure. You were thinking two other words, but I'm thinking of those two other words. Market failure. The ostensible reason that most economists reject what I've said so far in the last 20 minutes is because of market failure. And here's a list of market failures. Public goods, common pool resources, transactions cost, agency problems, informational asymmetry, externalities, market power, monopoly, expectations, equity, non-perfect competition, namely you don't have many buyers and sellers, homogeneous products, zero entry and exit costs, perfect information, underemployment equilibrium. That's the Keynesian view of a market failure, that we can have depressions that go on and there are no market forces that will bring us out of it. I once had nothing to do. I was bored, and I grabbed a whole bunch of American economic reviews. It was a disgusting thing. I really shouldn't confess this. I think I'm a pervert, even worse than you now think I am. And what I did was I started reading them. It was in the late 90s, and I wrote maybe 6 or 8 articles attacking various things.